Hello, my name is Hugh Gilmore. So I've been asked to answer a few questions for a specific provider, and I've made this into a generic video so that people who studied MI with me can understand some answers. This is probably pitched at somebody who's been through the stage 1 or stage 2 of MI. I expect more so the stage 2, where they've done at least 4 days of training in MI. It deals with some of the issues around giving information and dealing with resistance and dealing with discord within the situation that occurs, and it's obviously based at challenging circumstances in education. So I want to give some advice here, answer some specific queries which might be relatable to a generic field but also to the specific provider that's asked for this video. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Hugh. I provide motivational interviewing services and training in that. I'm a member of MINT, which is the Motivational Interviewing Network of Trainers. I'm a sports psych and have been for nearly a decade now, a decade now, working with elite Olympic and Paralympic athletes and also with veterans, help for heroes, things like that. So I have a good understanding of implementing motivational interviewing in a performance setting, and that is what university is. University is a performance setting. So what I'll do is I'll just click on through the slides here and talk through what we've got today. So essentially the challenging circumstances that are presented within universities are students are trying to do something, but they've been held to account of a line of, if you're not above this line, then you're not getting that mark, or if you're not achieving this, then you're out of the course. So there's going to be challenges and conflicts there that you have to manage, but those are no different to any other conflicts or challenges that you would have to manage. And MI is useful because it's good for creating behaviour change, but we need to be able to use it in pointy and difficult circumstances. That's where elicit, provide, elicit is really useful. This is a way of giving information that is consistent with motivational interviewing and motivational interviewing techniques. So elicit, provide, elicit is very simply is you need to elicit their understanding of a circumstance, and then you provide them with permission your views or just the views of the world and reality and real issues, and then you elicit from them how those views clash with their views and what they then now understand about the world. So you can give information, but you should have first sought their understanding of a situation to be MI consistent. Then you should ask them, can I share some information with you? And then you say, what do you think of that information? Now, I don't like those terms from a technical point of view. I'm not here to make you psychologists, because most people who do MI aren't. I'm here to just make you good at MI. So if I was going to put this into layperson's terms, what I would say is permission, opinion, thoughts. So you start off by asking permission. Why do you do this? Because whenever you ask for permission, if they say yes, then they've bought into what you have to offer. If they say no, well, then there's no point telling them anything further because they're not going to listen anyway. So by asking them the question, it enhances their level of engagement and buy-in to what you're about to say, and it means that they want to hear it. So you can use a phrase of, look, can I share a concern? Can I share with you some information that you might find useful? Can I tell you what I'm worried about or what might cause a problem for you down the line with this approach? These are all phrases that you could use. Don't use my phrase, use a phrase that you're comfortable with. So how do you ask permission? Then the next thing is opinion. You give the hard part of the message. It might be something like, are you aware of the fact that if you don't do X, then you'll face these consequences? Or I'm not sure that how you think or how you're acting is going to get you to where you want to be. And then the next thing after this is to ask them, what are your thoughts on that? Genuinely ask them what they think about that. Not just, you've had the information, now deal with it. Because if I was going to do that to you, that creates an abrupt end. That's a challenge. It's telling you what I think. And we're not concerned what I think. We're concerned about what they think when it comes to behavior change. So what are your thoughts softens that whole hard hard message. And I often use the example of nurses. Nurses work in an environment where hygiene is important, but one of the things that they have difficulty with is telling their co-workers that they stink. Your breath stinks, your hygiene's poor, you need to be more hygienic as a nurse, go wash yourself, please. So the thing about that, if I use that example, we would say, I'm not going to rock up to somebody and just go, here, you stink, go wash. That's not MI consistent. But if I said, do you mind if I share something with you, a bit of a concern? And they say, yeah, what is it? And I go, look, your hygiene's off. It's a bit of a smell. I'm not too sure if it's you or your clothes. Just what do you think of that? They then will go, oh, well, actually, this uniform hasn't been washed, or actually, I do need a wash. I just didn't manage to get a shower today, whatever it is. So the point is that this method of permission, opinions, thoughts is how you can handle a spiky or pointy opinion that you might be either find embarrassing to share with somebody or might land hard with them. Now, permission, P-O-T, pot. Right, if you're going to hand somebody a cactus, you put it in a pot because it's spiky. So just get this image. If you've got a spiky opinion, like a cactus, put it in a pot, ask permission, give the opinion, and then ask T for thoughts. And that's a good way of remembering this technique. So when we think then about MI, we need to remember the basics of it. Partnership, acceptance, compassion, and evocation. Show partnership in the conversation. Show acceptance of where they're at. You don't have to change them. You're not bought into their achievement. They don't have to achieve the behavior change. Their behavior change is their success. Your success is how well you communicate. So don't buy into the idea that you have to achieve behavior change with them. Buy into, I have to communicate to the best of my ability and accept what they do after that. Compassion, understand their difficulties and show that you're compassionate towards them, and you do that by using empathy. And you'll know this because you've done reflections and been trained to do reflections, and those are what show empathy. And then evocation, asking questions that cause the situation to evoke reasons for change or reasons to understand it differently. So let's try a few of these scenarios that the provider has sent me to discuss. So first one, I would like to join the uni societies and sports clubs, but I don't have time. Okay, so it's something that they want to do, but they don't have time. You've got two conflicting things. And for me, that's something you would get a good response by doing a complex reflection, which you'll have learned in stage 2. And a complex reflection that I would choose here is a double-sided one. So I would just simply say back to them, you want to join the unis, societies, but you don't have time. And I would make that even better by throwing in, it's important for you to engage with the university activities for your own well-being, but at the same time, you need to improve your time management skills. And really what this is probably an issue of prioritization. So you could say, you want to do this as a priority, but you have other priorities that come before it that are more important. What are they? So those are a couple of responses that are curious, they're either reflective, and they allow you to sort of understand that scenario deeper. That would be an approach you would take. And again, by understanding it deeper and helping them voice about their situation, they're going to probably come to an idea or a revelation about how they would change their behavior in that scenario. So in this example here, we've got, I want to get a better grade in my next assessment, but I find referencing really confusing. We can't change the fact that it's a hard reality. You have to learn to reference, you have to do it well. It's important to do. So we don't want to sort of budge on that and say, oh, we submit your essay without referencing. That won't fly. But look a bit deeper. What is this statement actually saying? I am struggling, I am having difficulty because I'm applying myself, because I'm trying to apply myself. You can use an affirmation here by saying something along the lines of, you're finding this confusing, which means you're putting effort in towards trying to understand it. How have you put effort in, and what are you finding confusing? That way you're actually pointing out that they're putting effort in. And learning is essentially a struggle of understanding things you don't currently understand. If you find it easy, you're not learning, you're revising. So you already know the material. So in this scenario, this is learning a new skill, therefore it will be confusing. Anytime, if you're going to learn to juggle, it's going to be confusing to begin with. So you can reinforce that. Look, this is a new skill for you. Of course it's going to be difficult. What have you tried so far? And then you can maybe try something like, do you mind if I share something with you? It's really important to get your referencing on point. It will give you an extra 5 or 10%, but like, this is what an acceptable standard looks like. This is what is going to cost you and not going to improve your grade. But also, I'd say, referencing isn't everything. You might be able to gain marks in another area. So again, you can direct the questions with open questions of how else might you achieve a better grade? What other areas could you improve on? Those are open questions, again, part of MI. So again, that might be something that you could say in response to this. Right, this one is a bit of a challenge because again, we've got a hard and fast line of you have to complete all the assessments, and you can't get sympathy here. You either complete all the work or you fail. And then there's obviously processes. And again, you can't change these processes. It's the same as competing in sport. It's like, if you don't qualify, you don't qualify. That's it. So I wanted to hand in your assessment on time, but I was busy with my other assessments. So there's a motivation, there's change talk in there. I want, that's change talk. So you wanted to hand in your essay on time, but you were overloaded. What have you learned from this experience? You're putting the responsibility back to them. I've learned that I need to prioritize better. I've learned that the uni work was too much for me because I tried to do other things at the same time. So what other things are preventing you from getting your assignments in on time, and how will you learn from this? Now, if this is a hard and fast line that they've failed and haven't got something in, it's fine, they're out the door, give them the consequence. There's an acceptable failure rate in performance. There's an acceptable failure rate in education. Obviously, your job is to try and keep them above that, complete failure rate. I would say that this is an opportunity to find out again, what are you prioritizing above other things? What can you strip away from your life that'll give you more time? How could you have started this assignment earlier? Where could you have sought help earlier? So when you can't change the reality that there's consequences, you can change the ability of them to learn from this. And again, you might want to put back to them something like, you've tried your hardest to get this done, but you find that you need to change your ways to accommodate more work and a higher work volume. For the provider that's asked for these questions specifically, you're working within a domain where the people will be going off to be professionals in a very important role. Therefore, they have to get used to handling workloads, deadlines, and professional note-taking. So this can be related back to that professional capacity of, if you fail to meet these requirements at this level, how do you think this will look in the professional environment that you're going to go into? And again, that's drawing it in such a way that you're showing compassion and understanding of their environment. So like, I know this is difficult now, but this could be a lot more difficult if this was an important case note that you had failed to prepare in time. What are your thoughts on this? So again, ask permission, then give your hard opinion, and then ask for their thoughts on that. Next one. So I want to stay for the whole lecture, but I have a medical appointment. Your medical appointment's more important to you than this lecture. They might say, yeah, it is, okay. If there's a consequence to missing a lecture, give them the consequence. Okay, you have an opportunity to arrange medical appointments that are outside of the time of these lectures, and therefore, there's going to be a consequence to your learning. And you can actually put this to them again, a double-sided or complex reflection of this lecture is really important to you, but you prefer to take the consequences of missing out on this material because of your medical needs at the moment. That must be really difficult, and showing empathy for the difficult circumstance they've got in. Is there a way that you could have changed this medical appointment? Is there a way that you could have organized this differently? Because I'm going to be a bit hard here. the only such thing as a medical emergency is whenever 999's been dialed and you're in the back of an ambulance. So unless it's a very difficult appointment that's going to take you off a waiting list, or there's no budge, there should be an ability for that appointment to be arranged at a time that's appropriate. And you can ask, ask, do you mind if I share something with you? I'm curious why you chose this time and didn't plan for it outside of the lecture hours, which are available in these days. What are your thoughts on that? And then they might say, well, in those days I was doing something else. I might have different commitments or different things that they have to prioritize above learning, like childcare or something like that. So again, there is a way to give hard information. Use your permission, opinions, thoughts, but also they want, that's change talk. This is important to them. If they're dismissive and just like, I have to go to a medical appointment, and they don't give a reason, they're probably not too engaged or bought into the lecture. Whereas here, you're actually hearing change talk. I want, people who say I want something. So, right, this next one then. I'm worried I won't get my assignment in on time because my laptop has crashed. Okay, again, we all know that university students go off and they will have, some people will have this experience, and again, in the professional environment that these people are going into, it wouldn't be acceptable. They would have to back up things, and again, every student and every person is told to back up things. So again, it's how can you put the big message to them that I appreciate that your laptop's crashed, I assume you have backed up your work. And then we say you haven't, okay, so what are you going to do about this, and how is this going to affect your work going forward? What are you learning from this? So I think that's the thing, is like, if somebody is at a hard place where they're going to get a consequence, direct it towards what they can learn from it. If you can't change that consequence, highlight the responsibility, the autonomy they have to learn from this situation. But at the same time, if there's flex and you can help them get through this gap, that's fine. But if there isn't, don't be afraid of keeping reality present, because we cannot change somebody's behavior if they're living in a magic land where there's no consequence. There are consequences. Let them see the consequences. And again, part of seeing consequences is part of something that causes growth. People who end up in hospitals with heart attacks and health conditions start to change their behavior because they see the consequences. The consequences are direct and present. And in fact, if you've got somebody who's maybe got ADHD or maybe dyslexia, things like that, it actually benefits them to have consequences sooner and earlier around them in the environment than it does to let them see the delayed effect of their lack of attainment, achievement, or perseverance, because the immediate consequences force them to prioritize more and get better performance out of them. So external rewards and self-management, things like that, immediate consequences are important for development of people. Don't take that reality away from the situation. We don't have to be nice and make the world a nice, fluffy, safe place. We have to make the people that we're trying to develop cope in a dark, dangerous, difficult circumstance which they're in. And we do that by supporting them with MI, but we don't take away the reality. There's a difference between us being nice, us being compassionate, and also the world having real consequences. I think to summarize on this issue is that whenever you're faced with challenges, listen, give the factual advice, give the factual consequences when you can in a way that's MI consistent. Use permission, opinions, thoughts. Understand the situation they're going through. Let them experience consequences. Don't change that. But then similarly, let them try and grow from that situation, what they've learned. Point it towards a future and not a past orientated situation. What did you do differently? Or what will you do differently? Not look how you've got into this scenario. So it's about what can they take forward, not about blame and holding them in the past. MI is a future orientated counselling approach, so use it towards their future. I hope this was of interest. For those of you who are not from the provider and are just interested in this and interested in getting trained in MI, please do get in touch and find out when my next course is. I generally run 1 to 2 a year. Thank you very much.